Well, good evening, lads and lassies. Good to see you. Yeah, I know. I was trying to figure out the headphone situation. God damn. What can you do? Good to see you all. Donald says I'm out of here. Alrighty. And I think Gia is heading out as well. Fair enough. Can I just ask though for the people because I just got an email from somebody too. It's like if you're covering Chile de Castro, I'm not watching your channel again. It's like it's written in the fucking it's written in the title. You know what I mean? So I don't understand why people. I'm not saying that that's why you guys are doing. I'm just saying in general. I don't understand because I saw this earlier as well on somebody else's thing, and people are like felt the need to come in and announce their departure. It's not an airport. You don't need to announce departures. It's all good. Obviously, I'm going to fucking cover it anyway. Judge created a monster. Yeah. It's going to be an interesting one. And if we thought Chile was insufferable before, daha. I'm just going to say daha. Yeah. So here's the thing. He was in court today on appeal. So he was appealing his conviction and he won the appeal. So I agree with the person above. If you thought that he was insufferable before, can you fucking imagine what he's going to be like now? It's going to be a nightmare. And if I need to refer you back to my live stream a while back, that's exactly what I said would happen. Whether or not he appealed and won makes no fucking difference. He was going to be insufferable anyway. Now, I had a bit of an unpopular opinion when all this went down first, where I felt it was a little bit of an overreach putting him in jail for that. And I still stand by that. I mean, unpopular as that may be, because I think there's a bit of cognitive dissonance in the air to some extent, where people is like, you know, Chile's in jail. Yeah, okay, yeah, fine. You laugh at it, it's funny, whatever. But you have to be respectful of the law. And, you know, if that same thing happened to me or somebody else for doing the exact same thing, how would you feel? And that's, you know, I don't like Chile. We all know that. He's a dick. But we need to be reasonable and fair as well. But this, I said it. This is going to turn him into a fucking monster, no matter what way you cut it up. Sandy D says, and has been a member for 21, says, while I'm sad to see Chile walk free among normal humans again, I agree that the case wasn't strong, but I prefer him behind bars. And that's a very fair statement. Absolutely. That's your preference. And I respect that. But I do think I stand by what I said. I think it was a massive overstep. I think the judge in that case had a stick up her ass, to be honest. And I don't blame her because he was being a prick. But I think judges need to be able to kind of go above that. But they're human beings at the end of the day. But we'll have a look at what was said and what happened. And we'll go from there. Let me see here now. There was another comment I wanted to bring up that I think was really good as well. Stefan reckons that the prosecutor did a terrible job. I haven't actually watched the whole thing, so I don't know. Another trial is coming, absolutely. I have no doubt. And again, it's not to suggest for 1 minute that he's not an asshole and all the rest of it. Like, don't get me wrong. But this has left the door open now, and I said this would happen. I fucking called it. It's left the door open now for his high horse to smoke a ton of weed and get even higher. Yeah, absolutely. Elizabeth says, well, it cost him. It did in the short term, but I believe that he will gain in the long term from this. His support is going to grow massively because for once he has actually won his case. He fought the law and he fucking won. And we got to be real. He fought the law and he won in this scenario. So it's going to be a nightmare. He's going to be a fucking nightmare. Sean says, you see all those people saying it. Saying what? sir. Thank you so much, Mel. Oh, Mel, was it you that messaged the tattoo artist by any chance? Because he was really excited today. He got a message from one of you guys, and he really appreciated it. So the guy who did my new tattoos, he's a young artist, Flynn the Human, and he's absolutely fantastic. He's an absolute gent, by the way. Lovely, lovely guy, and he's just getting himself going. He is he's kind of working and saving at the same time to build up his business. So he needs to get a few bits and pieces for his store because it's pretty empty, you know, whatever. But he's trying his best. He's building up his business. I've been trying. I was out on the street today. I went in to get my other tattoo today from him, and I was like going into cafes, talking to like young, hip, happening young people to let them know about this new guy. And they were like, "Oh, I didn't even know it was there. That's fucking awesome." I showed them the work I had done. They were like, "Oh my God, that's amazing." So hopefully you'll get a bit of business going his way. I'm getting together a few bits here that I have, like from, you know, the old setup of my studio, all like skull mugs and cool shit like that to help him kind of, what would you say? To help him decorate his tattoo studio and all that kind of stuff. I'm telling you, like, we spent the last 2 days almost entirely together, chatting, having a good time. He is just such an awesome guy. He really, really is. So yeah, he did this one for me yesterday, my hand tattoo, and I just can't believe how well it's healed already. Like, there's no pain whatsoever. He just has such an incredible touch. And he did this one for me today. I've actually wanted this one forever, man. He did an amazing job. He has designed a tribute tattoo for the Triggered Limey for me. So I'm actually going back there tomorrow with my friend Stephen. He's coming over visiting from Manchester. And yeah, so we're going to go down there together. We're going to live stream from the tattoo parlor tomorrow. And yeah, you guys are all going to watch me get my my Triggered Limey tattoo live. It's beautiful. He did an amazing job. He did a fucking spectacular job. And I have to say, I'm really looking forward to getting it done. I haven't decided exactly where I'm going to get it yet. I'm leaving this clear for now because I actually have another tattoo booked for here with a different artist who I've been waiting to get for a while. And I have another one planned for here. So I'm thinking maybe here. I might get the... Oh, I can't wait for you guys to see it. He did a fucking remarkable job. And it's going to be great. It's going to be absolutely great. So tomorrow at about midday my time. So 13 hours from now. So yeah, I had like a fairly long session yesterday, a fairly long session today, and I'm gonna have another fairly long session tomorrow. And so it's gonna be really, really cool. I'm looking forward to getting it done. I've been waiting to kind of get the right tattoo, the right artist, and this guy is the guy. He's awesome. Absolutely awesome. So thank you so much. I think it was you, Mel, who sent him the message, and it meant the world to him. Actually, he texted me when I got home there, and he said it meant the absolute world to him. He, you know, it really helps his confidence, and I'm going to do everything I can to do everything I can do to help him build his business because he's just such a great guy. I can't say enough how much of an awesome guy he is. Michael John Dennis says, how is the classy lady Chloe? She's great. She got a tattoo as well today. Spur of the moment. She was like, I'd like to get she wanted her mom and dad's date of birth in kind of like whatever the script is called, with like little dragonflies. That's all she wanted. He was like, yeah, cool. And he just started drawing, and he came up with this awesome design. And he was like, yeah, cool. So you want to head in the back and do it? And she was like, what, now? And then he was like, yeah, why not? She was like, fuck it, let's do it. So she went in, got her one done first. And then I went out for a cigarette. I came back. She was like, oh yeah, I got him to tattoo my fingers as well. I was like, what? She just got these little dainty dots on it. They're actually very, very pretty. So yeah, she's good. She's chilling now, resting up. But yeah, I'm really happy with what he did. So there's something else going right in here. And it wasn't that it was hurting too much that I had to stop. I was just exhausted. I was just absolutely exhausted. I didn't sleep a fucking wink last night. So I was just too tired. So we're gonna finish shading this in tomorrow and do the triggered limey one as well tomorrow. And the design is fucking perfect. It's exactly what I wanted. It's exactly what I had in my mind. And he just plucked it from my brain and created it, and it looks great. Mel says compliments can definitely mean the world. Wish him luck. Absolutely, I will do. It'll be my pleasure. I didn't shut down the site. It's just under construction at the moment. How long did the knob end up doing? I actually don't know how long he ended up. Does anybody? Oh, 4.5 months. ATX Ali said, fucking flies, man. Living on a farm in Ireland during a very, very wet summer is not fun. Carrie's going to get me a t-shirt from her favorite fudge shop. Hell yeah. That's awesome. I used to have a job packing fudge. Anyway, it was so funny. My mom yesterday, I was telling her, the day before yesterday, I was telling her I was going in for this tattoo. She was like, for fuck's sakes, don't get a tattoo in your hand like your brothers did. I was like, I can't guarantee that I won't. And I actually, this isn't the tattoo I actually had planned for yesterday. I just went in and he was like, hey, I drew this. I was like, put it on my hand right now. He was like, hell yeah. He drew a beautiful cherry blossom, fine line cherry blossom one that he's saving for Chloe. So she's going to go in and get that probably next week or whatever. Anyway, let me see here now. Uranus chocolates. I love it. Secret Life. Is it? Why is it not public? No, I'm confused. I've been awake for nearly 48 hours, so I am bollocks. Michael John Dennis says you should do a calendar of a handsome Irish hunk. Well, why not? I was actually, somebody mentioned that to me before. Like, would you do like a charity calendar of your own? I was like, hell yeah, would that be so much fun, man? Like me in a cowboy suit on a horse. Poor fucking horse. Me and my biker gear on my bike. What are this? Firefighter gear. I can get my hands on some of that. Head to toe PVC leatherette. I could definitely get my hands on that. I mean, maybe. Yeah, I would definitely do that. I'd get my tits out and everything. Just not my nipples. Because somebody in the side chat owns those. And it's not Chloe, funnily enough. Firefighter Demon would be a bit of a, not a misnomer, kind of a juxtaposition to reality. Because usually I'm the one fucking starting fires. Anyway, let's have a look at the court hearing and we'll see what you guys think. And like I say, I'm open to, you know, different opinions here. Like I know my opinion's probably a little bit unpopular, that I genuinely don't think that he should have been put in jail for that. And I just feel like it was way over the top. And it was because he was acting like an asshole rather than for the reality of what had happened, if you get me. I'm not saying that it wasn't just desserts, and I didn't lose any fucking sleep over Chile being put in jail. I didn't. Like, I really don't care. I frankly don't care, to the point that I would like be like, poor Chile. But my concern was more the fact that this would fucking, can you imagine the big fucking head he's going to get from this? You know what I'm saying? It's going to be insufferable, but hopefully it'll result in some fucking fantastic content. So we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Am I glad that Chile got released from jail? Refer to my previous comment. I don't really care for him as a person. So am I glad that he got released? Nah, not really. Like, I don't really give a shit. I just feel like it shouldn't have happened in the first place. It sets a really dangerous precedent when, because it did seem on the face of it like the judge was being a bit pissy with him. Even when the prosecutor asked for, it was like deferred or suspended or whatever, and she said no, she was putting him in jail. It just came across like she was lashing out, and that's just, that might not have been the case. That might not have been the case at all. And I'm not saying that that is the case. It just came across that way. And that looks fucking terrible. That looks really, really bad. Do you know of the YouTuber Sergeant Ducky? He has some good content, although he's from Tipperary. Ooh, Tipperary, man. I have to listen to a Tipperary person talking all fucking day. I don't know if I can do another one. I know, I'll have a look. What was it? SGT Duck, is it? Ducky. Let's have a look here. Sergeant Ducky, 209 subscribers. How have I not heard of this guy? Animated stories. Cool. Thanks for that. I'll check him out. Absolutely. Absolutely. Tim Tully says, I'm back. Was sick for a bit, but better now. Tim has been a member for 30 months. Thank you so much, Tim. And I'm so glad to hear that you're feeling better, my friend. I really, really am. Yeah, it's tough. Like myself and Chloe went through a period there of a couple of weeks where we were just sick nonstop. I know you guys are thinking, oh, you two fuckers are sick all the time. It's actually not true. We've actually been in really good health for the last few months. It's just like we had like 2 weeks in a row where we were just sick. And it was the weather and we weren't eating well. And we were all over the fucking place. His head's going to be bigger than the Thanksgiving parade float. Very nice. Is that the Macy's one? Is that right? Is that what that is? Anthony Caruso. Good to see you, buddy. I don't think he should have gone to jail as much as I don't like him. Should have gone to jail for contempt of court, though. That, fair enough. Right? Fair enough. Susan, did you shave your head again? I did. I had to. Reason being is it started growing out and my hair grows really fast. And it was starting to look a bit microphony again. And I have a big event on this Saturday where I'll probably be photographed quite a bit. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. In for a penny, in for a fucking pound. Just shave the bastard off again. And then once the event's over, they're going to start growing it back then. So you will be seeing me wearing hats. Now, the other problem that I have with said haircut is this looks like I've got like bald patches. It's just gray hair. And it's fucking bizarre to me, you know? Like somebody pointed out, my nephew pointed out the other day. He was like, why have you got a bald patch? I was like, bald patch? What the fuck? I was like, my whole head's a bald patch. What are you talking about? He's like, no, you have a little bald patch. I was like, oh shit, that's gray hair, dude. That's because you're auntie. Anyway, Colin, definitely not feckin' Cromwell. He's been a member for 20 months. Says, who's this guy? What fucking guy? What guy? Good to see you, buddy. I was just thinking about you today, funnily enough. I saw the most ridiculous tattoo of Ray Romano. I was like, hey, it's a tattoo of Colin Cromwell. It was so funny. Anyway, yeah, it was allergies. Fucking allergies have been killing me, man. But I can't take antihistamines because every time I just cannot fucking function. If I take antihistamines, I'd just be exhausted. Speaking of insufferable, how are you coping with the All-Ireland talk? Okay, non-Irish people would not have a fucking clue what I'm talking about here. Hurling is a way of life in this country. It's one of the oldest sports in the world. It's the fastest field sport in the world. And it's a cross between like hockey and war, right? It's fucking brutal. It's unbelievable. I love hurling. Got a hurley up there on the wall somewhere. Yeah, over there in that corner. Cork is my county, my team, and your county loyalty is like your country loyalty, right? It's fucking you live and die for your country. You wouldn't be cut dead in the colors of another county. Chloe's a Tipperary girl, which is another county, and again, they're one of our biggest rivals in GAA in hurling. Gaelic Athletic Association is GAA. Come on, Lucas Gale. Anyway. We had a bet the other day that if Cork beat Limerick in the semi-final to get into the All-Ireland final, which is like the event of the year in this country, that she would have to get a Cork jersey and wear it in Tipperary, where we're going to go to watch the fucking All-Ireland final. And yeah. The problem is, the second part of that bet is if Clare beat Cork in the All-Ireland final, I have to wear a Tipperary jersey around Cork. Scary thought. Bob Nodell's Gyroscope says, you won't beat Kilkenny. We don't fucking have to, because Clare did it for us already. So we don't have to face Kilkenny. Hammered them the last time. I do think we'll beat Clare in the All-Ireland final. Likewise, I think England will beat Spain in the football as well. Yeah, Kilkenny have 36. How many do Cork have? What mic am I using? Jay, I am using the Shure, not the SM7B, the MV7, which is like the baby version of the SM7B. And it's fucking great. I love it. I've had it now for quite a while. I got it when I was in Texas. So I've been using it forever. I gotta look up how many All Irelands has Cork won. Because I remember when I was a kid, we were pretty much neck and neck in terms of All Irelands. Sorry, no, this is probably incredibly fucking boring for people who don't know anything about Irish sports ball. Oh yeah, I saw the picture of yourself and Heather. Colin, lovely picture, man. I can't see. Cork has won the All Ireland 30 times, so we're not too far behind. The Limey tattoos tomorrow. I'm going to be live streaming from the tattoo parlor. This new tattoo artist I found, man, he's awesome, and he designed one today. It is amazing. Jerk of all trades says, "I'm so fucking angry. Justice was undone." I think that's where we differ, and I would just say before you get fucking angry, before anybody gets angry about that comment, just go back a few minutes and you'll see how I get to that. There's a good reason for it. Am I going to lose any sleep about Chile de Castro being in jail? Hell no. I don't give a fuck. I don't care. If they threw away the key, I wouldn't give a shit. I really genuinely wouldn't. For me, it's more about the ramifications of what has just happened, because I said it months ago when this happened. I said either he's just going to do his time and it'll be a woe is me thing and he'll make a fortune off it and he'll be a martyr, or he'll get it overturned and then the floodgates will fucking open. And that's what's going to happen. Mark my words. Mark my word. Am I happy? Am I happy that he got out? No, I don't give a shit. I couldn't care less if I tried. I'm just worried about what the ramifications are going to be. And I think the precedent that this set is going to get people in trouble and it could potentially get people hurt. Demon Sister for $5 says technically he didn't win his appeal. It was overturned. There's a distinction there, right? No, he won the appeal. So in order to have his conviction overturned, he had to win the appeal. So you appeal the conviction. He won the appeal. Therefore, the conviction is then overturned. Oh, he will, William. 100%. 100%. And that's why I'm not worried about this at all. 100%. He will FAFO again soon. I've no doubt. For those who don't know, the uninitiated, FAFO is fuck around and find out. Or in Ireland, it's feck around and find out. 10 hours of community service picking up trash while the First Amendment auditor just films him the entire time. Yeah. Demon Sister for $5 says, I think the prosecutor phoned it in, and I have a feeling that Levitt doesn't like Zimmerman. This way is a way to get back to her. Yeah, no, I tend to agree. And again, I will say I stand by what I said. I feel like it just came across as a bit of an overreach and a bit of a snap decision to fuck him into jail for that length of time for what he did. Frankly, I genuinely do believe that. Again, I'm not going to lose any sleep over the fact that Chile de Castro spent time in the clink. Doesn't faze me at all. I slept like a baby that night either way. My point is that it sets a really bad precedent and it did not look good, frankly. And everybody was like, yay! And I'm like, wait, I'm with you. Like, it's hilarious. Like, Chile's in jail, whatever. Fine, that's fucking hysterical, whatever. But it's what's going to come when he gets out. He's going to either A, be a martyr, or he's going to win his appeal, which he did. And then everybody looks like a dickhead. And that's exactly what's happening. It's exactly what's happening. And I'm like, shit, I called it. Ah, fucking hell. Bad says, Lol Demon, did you fall under your lawnmower? Oh, I had to shave it again. Oh, fucking hell. Anyway, Shan says, if the verdict was overturned, he'll sue them like crazy. 100% he'll sue the fuck out of them, man. Will they get qualified immunity? It's shaky from what I can ascertain in such a short period of time. It seems shaky enough, but he might be okay. Like suing the cop for it. I think the cop will be fine because the judge found him guilty based on the facts. And it seems, according to the opinion of the other judge, that she may have been wrong. So yeah, might have problems, there, but we'll wait and see. Susan says it was a wake-up call for him, but it got disconnected. I agree there. I think it was a bit of a like, oh shit, this just got real. So yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe he'll go the other way. Maybe we'll go, fuck, I need to settle down a bit. I think here's what I foresee. And I'm rarely wrong, to be fair, if I can just, blow my own trumpet hole here for a minute. Trumpet hole? Anyway, whatever. I'm rarely millions of miles off the mark on this kind of thing. Here's what I think will happen. I think he will do a lot of talking online and on the air and raising funds and woe is me and I'm a martyr and look how great I am. But I guarantee we won't see as much of him out on the street, because now he's thinking, shit, these fuckers are going to have it in for me now. And they probably would. So I don't blame him for not getting out there. But that's what I foresee. But we'll wait and see how this goes. Demasys says, hang on, brother. Tattoos. I only heard about one. No, I got that one yesterday, that one today, and I'm getting the Triggered Limey one tomorrow. That's going to be beautiful, guys. It's such a beautiful design. It's really simple and elegant, like myself, and it's gorgeous. I'm really thinking. Where was I thinking of putting it? Like right here. It's beautiful, guys. It really is. You guys are gonna love it. I hope you do, anyway. I'm sure you will. Flagman Dan, good to see you, buddy. Sends a whole load of defamation shamrocks. Thank you so much indeed. Betty relocates out of Vegas. I would say that would probably be a very good call for him to do so. But who knows? I can't wait for his board game too. It's going to be class. But yeah, apparently he only had 18 days left on his sentence. That's a kick in the nuts, though, isn't it? But this all plays into his hands, like people laugh about that and go, "Well, at least he did most of it anyway." I don't give a shit. That all plays into his hands. He's had this overturned. He's just spent nearly 6 months in jail for something that, according to the judge, now that it's been overturned, he didn't do. He's innocent of these charges. So technically, whatever your personal feeling towards Chile de Castro is, he technically shouldn't have been in jail for that period of time, and he could stand to make a lot of fucking money off this. I'm assuming he would be suing the state of Nevada, is what I'm guessing, plus the individual police officer or whatever, maybe the judge, I don't know. He's probably standing to make a fucking tidy few bob off this, man. Just saying. I'm just being real. He's going to do well out of this, not to mention he'll raise buckets of funds for his legal fees, all this shit. Like, he stands to gain a lot more. So when a lot of people are like, he's still did 6 months. Yeah, he's probably going to make a couple of fucking million off it too, though. So would you do 6 months in jail for a couple of $1,000,000? I would. Hell yeah, I would. Are you kidding me? I'd do 6 months in jail with fucking chili in my cell for $2 million. It might not be that much. I probably won't. I don't know. Jerkwall Trey says our system is very broken if his behavior is legal. That's a very fine line. When it comes to the spoken word and him having I believe completely in free speech. I don't know if I go so far to say that I'm a free speech absolutist in the purest sense of the term. Besides the obvious, do I think that hate speech is free speech? Absolutely, I do. I would absolutely much prefer to have a neighbor who's willing to be openly racist, so then I fucking know who the racist guy is. I don't have to guess. I'd rather my neighbor be openly homophobic. So I'm like, okay, yeah, that's that homophobic prick down the street. I'm not going to have anything to do with that asshole. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I do believe in free speech. It's a difficult one, though. I agree with you. When it starts becoming aggressive and invasive and intrusive and dangerous, that's when you're going, okay, there's already laws to stop that, see, and I don't want you to think that I'm having a go at you here, because I'm not, because I do agree with what you're saying, jerk of all trades. I really do. But I do challenge, I challenge things. And so yeah, while I agree with you, like inserting yourself into police activities can be very fucking dangerous. And is it fair to say, for example, that him standing there shouting, let's say, and it's interrupting the police in the performance of their duties, should there be a legal ramification for that to stop him from doing that so that they can perform their duties in the interest of safety or whatever? I say yeah. That's reasonable. I don't think that's an unreasonable limitation on action. Maybe not necessarily limitation on the words that he uses. If he wants to call the cop a cunt, leave him say it. Yeah, fucking A, say whatever you want. But when he's shouting and screaming and being aggressive and causing, as you rightly put, like a distraction that could be potentially dangerous, right? Then yeah, I agree with you. I think that at that point there needs to be some level, but it's then getting down to the point of how far do you go with those controls? How much power do you give? And that's the tough part. I think we can all agree on what the obvious stuff is. It's getting down to the nitty gritty and okay, what are the risks of giving somebody power to control speech? I read about a lady. There was a young lady, a little girl, essentially, who was brutally assaulted by a bunch of men in a fashion that, I don't really want to say, but you can understand where I'm coming from. Two of the men involved in this gang RAPE scenario went to jail for it. Some of the other men who were just as involved didn't go to jail. This lady put up a comment on social media calling this guy a piece of shit or whatever. She got arrested and did a few days in jail. She did more fucking time in jail than a rapist. She did more time in jail for calling a rapist a piece of shit than the rapist did for doing what he did. That is disgusting to me. If I want to stand out there and call you a cunt, then I should be within my rights to do it. If I want to call you a slur, yeah. Am I potentially going to get punched in the fucking face for it? Yeah, absolutely. Not saying that there's no ramifications. Legally, though, where do you draw the line? That's the hard part. Because what you might find offensive, I might not, and vice versa. So when it's laws against offending people, that's dangerous. That's fucking dangerous, man. I love this, though. I love these challenging questions because it's like there is no right or wrong answer here. There is no right or wrong way to go about it. It's unbelievable. And so I thank you for those comments because it's important that we challenge each other, especially on things like this, while we can, before the government comes in and takes our right away. Nah, you know what I mean? I'm not going to go full fucking, what's that guy's name? What's that guy with the husky voice? They're turning the frogs gay. That guy, Alex Jones. Anyway, fuck me. Teresa Brewer, I'm going to get to the video in a second. Did you not see my hat? For those of you who may be like, is he going to play the fucking video or what? ADHD, highway to, oh shit, look, a squirrel. Teresa Brewer's been a member for 2 whole fucking years. Happy membership birthday. The last live stream, the last kind of proper live stream I did, there was like 35 new members. And this lady's been here for 2 years. I know you've been around longer than that, but you've been a member here for 2 whole years. And I thank you so much for that. I'm not drinking at the moment. I'm taking a break because I drank a whole glass of whiskey the other night. So I'm taking a break from it. No, when I have hay fever, if I drink, I just feel so unwell. So I'm not drinking. I got my Wawa, my Ishka. So I'll launch it to you with this. Teresa Brewer, 2-year memberversary. Slanchoa. Anyway, she says he'll be scrounging money off everybody and then he'll try to sue everyone. And he will fucking win some of those. I guarantee you this fucker is going to clean up from this. The discussion salon, discussions, crime and history. Ooh, I like the sound of that. I'd love to come on one of those. For £2, says the thing is Chile is just going to get worse now. Oh my God, yeah. He's going to be a fucking nightmare. But it might be really funny as well, though. That's the thing. Sandy D for $5 says when Chile got aggressive with the cop name calling aside, the cop had no clue how this was going to escalate. I wish the law dealt with that. And that again, I think that's a really from a reasonable human being's point of view, that makes absolutely perfect sense, right? I totally agree with you. The thing is, we can't charge somebody for what we think they might do. Somebody acting aggressively, that could be their limit. Like, I've no doubt he has the potential to go all the way and be incredibly violent and dangerous, right? Like that time he said that he was going to hold me down and fuck me in the ass and all this kind of shit. Like, I mean, this guy's fucked in the head. So I agree with you. He has got this potential to be very, very dangerous. But you have to, where do we draw the line? Where do we say, I think he was going to do it, so I arrested him for what he didn't actually do? And that's like, that's dangerous shit. That's some gulag shit, man. I don't like that. Weird Mac guy says the big question is the possibility bad decision to let Chile out worth it for the content we will now get the lava. That's the other thing. I'm not gonna lie when I say I kind of miss him a little bit because he was a fucking lolcow, man. He was a lot of fun to laugh at. Actually, stand by. Just give me 2 minutes. I'll be right back. This one's for you, Colin. Got the red glasses on, baby. Since he's been set free, he hasn't learned anything and will spend everyone else's money suing everybody. I totally agree. I'd say that if he didn't have real victims, and that's the thing, like, and I made this point a few months ago and people shat on me from orbit for it. And I was like, I'm not siding with Chile here. I'm just saying, put him in jail for the shit that he did do, not for the shit that he didn't do. And people were like, well, either way, at least he's going to jail and he'll serve time and, it'll be his uppance has come. I agree. But the law don't work that way, man. Now he's won. He's overturned the decision. That opens the fucking floodgates, man, for all these crazies. That's the problem. Anyway, let's finally get to the fucking video. I'm so sorry. Well, we'll probably skip some of this shit. Is probably really boring. I can't stay for too long. I've got to be up in 5.5 hours to go pick up my buddy from the airport. So I get going on this. I'm having some fucking beans on toast for my supper. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but does it not look like he got a couple of slaps? He looks like he's got bags under his eyes, stuff like that. And actually, Lucy pointed out to me earlier. Now, I wasn't watching it. I was in getting my tattoo done at the time, so I wasn't able to actually listen to it or watch it. But she was like, "Where the fuck did he get a hair dye in jail?" I was like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "What are you on about?" Because I couldn't see what she was talking about. She was like, "Yeah, his hair's all dark and shit. Like, how did he get hair dye?" That's a fair point. That's the best I've seen his hair looking. Truth be told, you should keep that style, Chili. This whole fucking thing. Stop that troll doll shit. Embrace your height or lack thereof. Embrace it. Anyway, I totally misread this super chat. Sandy D for $5 says, I applied for a new job today. It would be a 13 grand pay rise. I thought you said, so send me your dick pic, right? Because I just scrolled through it quickly, but evidently it doesn't. Anyway, what she actually said was, so send me your luck of the Irish. Lads and lassies right now. I promise this is the last fucking thing before I get into this video. There's 100 or so of you watching right now. Would you all drop a whole load of defamation shamrocks in the side chat for our good friend Sandy D? Sandy, I wish you all the very best of luck. I hope to fuck that you get that job and that pay rise. Congratulations to you when you get it. Not if you get it, when you get it. Anyway, last thing, Matt, the weird Matt guy says, Chili calling himself a constitutional law scholar would be like me calling myself a biker because I got a tricycle, except I've got the self-awareness to know I get laughed at. Absolutely. Although I'd love one of those big wheel Harley trikes. Martin O'Sullivan. I was only talking about you today, man.
And
If you want a tattoo, hit me up. I got a new guy.
Defense counsel, turn your
Thank
phone
you,
off.
Jude.
And she said, I don't want to be part of your YouTube chat. And he said, we already are. This is the starting point to this trial. And the state says, well, the court has a right to,
Man, he fucking aged in jail, dude.
Court secure. Absolutely, you do.
Lady of Veggies, good to see you.
Have a right to determine who's filming. Absolutely. But what was interesting in the state's argument is they forgot to mention that
I remember them, Paul.
The prosecutor says, hey, turn your phone off. Make sure your phone's off. It was all directed at him and his attorney. You can't take cell phones. You can't do that. It's structural error to do that. And it also kind of shows that the court had an animus towards Mr. De Castro. Then, Judge, he makes a statement to the marshal. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. It's clearly unacceptable. The judge was agitated by it.
What did he actually say again? I just don't remember. I've had so much going on in my life since this shit went down. What was it that he actually said to the dude again? Can I also say that Chile's attorney looks like Chile from behind? Just saying.
So. As I look at that, I'm like, I come in these courts all the time. You don't get to call a marshal what he gave. So, I understand. That's a different matter. He's not on trial for calling the marshal a name, which he shouldn't have called. Maybe you could hold contempt proceedings for that.
That's not a big deal, isn't it?
Remedies that a court...
Like cards on the table, calling them a pig isn't a big fucking deal. Like
being disruptive. Just because somebody's disruptive in a murder calls your court staff a name, it's inappropriate. I would realize with a client, oh boy, this is not looking good. But that doesn't mean you're going to find or suggest that the person committed murder simply because he's acting or she's acting in a fashion in a courtroom.
That's fair, man. I'm sorry. That's a fair deal.
But it was clear then that the trial was going the wrong way. So when we look at the facts of the case, that the police officer testifies that this auditor approaches, says that he's a member of the press, identifies him immediately.
He's good, man.
I have video here. I also have exhibits. And that he wouldn't back up. Now at trial, that was commented on by the officer a couple of times. He wouldn't back up. He wouldn't back up. The prosecutor argued it. Then they started on the 21-foot rule. It's an imaginary rule. We all know there's no such thing as a 21-foot rule. It doesn't exist.
Oh yeah, I think he's a legit lawyer. Apparently he's very good.
Where is this coming from? What rule are you coming to with this? And the prosecutors argue, well, he's violating the 21-foot rule. There's no such thing as a 21-foot rule. And the state, to their credit, has abandoned and completely retreated from the 21-foot rule on this appeal. They don't argue.
Testify it was something he had learned in the academy.
Yes. Yes, but I understand what it is, Judge, because I've used it myself in murder cases, and that is what they're argued that my clients are enduring is that if a man, an assailant, comes at an officer or a citizen, within 21 feet, you won't be able to draw your weapon. That's what they're taught. So it's something that we use in a self-defense case. Oh, look, the guy was, coming, and so my guy had no choice but to shoot. I understand that's what police officers are taught. But that's got no bearing on this. There is no 21-foot rule. And in fact, we just go to Click. Click is a First Circuit case, both the state and myself rely upon it. And in Click, I thought the language was so important to this case because
it's a good point.
They begin speaking about that officers, in that case, the person's filming on the Boston Common, filming from 10 feet away, 10 feet away. That's very relevant because the police officer in that case said Mr. De Castro was 10 feet away. And so the First Circuit said that is 10 feet away. And then the First Circuit starts saying, police officers need to deal with provocative and challenging speech. They further identify that when a police officer comes in contact with somebody who's being rude or obnoxious, that they feel like they shouldn't be filmed, that they shouldn't have to endure that. And the First Circuit then goes on to talk about that officers sometimes retaliate because they don't like it. They don't like it. And they said that's what happened in Click. The officers didn't like it. You don't film us. You have no right to film us. Okay? And so when I look at the situation, I'm like, officers, we have a right to film officers. In fact, we have an actual statute on it. NRS 171.1233. This is cited in page 2 of my reply brief in footnote 1. subsection 2, subsection A states, a peace officer shall not act to interfere with a person's reporting of law enforcement activity, including, without limitation, by A, intentionally preventing or attempting to prevent the person from recording the law enforcement activity. You had a right to do it. We know it by statute, we know it by federal law. So, what does Mr. De Castro do?
The conviction was overturned, Nick.
Tells him, back up, I can prove he does. I've attached the exhibits. I don't, if the state wants me to, I'll put it up and I'll show it, but we can see from Exhibit A that where Mr. De Castro is standing, he's standing in a particular parking space. We can see in Exhibit B, he has now moved back into the back parking space. I don't, when I say back parking space, I know that may be not a good record, but he's moving over.
Right, it looks like it's in a parking lot.
Yes, it's a parking lot. He's moving from one parking space away. You can see it's away from the officer. So the state, to continuously argue he would not back up. Why are they doing that? Because they want to say he won't follow the commands. And the accurate answer was, and I think the court would say, if you were asked to look at this case and say, what did Mr. De Castro do when he was told to back up? He backed up a short distance. That would be fair. Maybe the court would not like that language, say maybe it's a few feet. But he did back up. What is not fair is he would not back up. He would not comply. He did not back up. And then the officer was asked, did you tell him how far? No, because he was disruptive. So I couldn't tell him how far. The 21-foot rule. There is no 21-foot rule. Click said 10 feet was fine. And in Click, what's more interesting about it is the officers, what Click is deciding is not like this court deciding whether there's a criminal activity. Click is suing the officers. And the officers are over in federal court saying, oh no, give us qualified immunity. And the federal court saying, no, not for this. You're not getting, for arresting somebody who's filming, you're going to get sued. You're not getting qualified immunity. You're going to have to fight this and go to a jury. I think that's very relevant because that's what's going to happen with this officer. Undoubtedly, you know he's going to sue, and I think he's already started that process. I'm not a civil lawyer, so I don't do that. But I know that that is what's taking place. So what is hindering this man from obstructing him from writing his ticket? He can just simply write the ticket. He can look at Mr. De Castro and think to himself, here's one of these auditors, walk over and write a ticket. He was asked the question, which I thought was really good at trial. He was asked, how did he obstruct you? How were you obstructed? And he said, well, I didn't know what his intentions were. I didn't know. Maybe he was armed. Well, that doesn't obstruct you. How does that obstruct you? That doesn't, he never gets in the way. So let's fast forward to Wilson. Okay? 3 weeks before this trial, the Court of Appeals considers one of my arguments here that the statute is unconstitutionally vague and ambiguous. The Wilson court determines that the only way to impede, the only way that you impede is that you have fighting words or you physically do it. And the exact language of it is, we interpret 197.190 as applying only to physical conduct and fighting words. The court further explained that blocking the path of an officer may amount to obstruction. Well, that didn't happen. We can look at the video. There's no blocking. There's no blocking that goes on. And they also say that it could be non-aggressive, which made me curious. So I went and read the case. I thought, what could non-aggressive be? And it makes perfect sense. I would have never seen how non-aggressive could be obstruction. But what they then cite is they were pulling over an individual, police were, and then the guy, who I guess is armed, then starts to run from police. Well, now they've got to go chase him. So clearly you're hindering the police. So that made perfect sense, and that's the case they cited. What is interesting about Wilson is they also go on to say, as construed by this court, NRS 197.190 prohibits only physical conduct and fighting words that hinder, delay, or obstruct a public officer in the discharge of official duties or powers. As such, law enforcement has no discretion to arrest persons for protected speech or for physical conduct.
I'll be right back there, guys. You give me 2 minutes. I just got to take care of something.
I know you've watched this video. And I could see how anybody could look at this and hear the speech, get in your car, little doggy, and write your ticket, and find that to be annoying. I see that. But that's protected. And we've been told that's protected now by our courts in Nevada, by numerous federal courts. They went on to say the district court did not, okay, so in Wilson was convicted, appealed, just like I'm doing here. And they point out in Wilson that on appeal, this court explained the district court did not have the benefit of our interpretation of 197, 190 as being limited to physical conduct or fighting words, and it therefore did not consider whether there was sufficient evidence that Wilson engaged in physical conduct or other fighting words so as to support her conviction, and the case was remanded. Why I think that's important is because one of sort of the big picture that I want the court to see that I'm arguing, I think Judge Zimmerman was put in an absolutely terrible situation. Here's look at all this litigation we're doing here. This isn't new. I didn't come up with, oh look, there's a new case that came out about a First Amendment issue. A lot of the cases I'm citing are 20 years old, 15 years old. This is known law. If we have this issue before you on a case, isn't it incumbent upon me to file this pretrial?
I wonder why that didn't occur in this case.
And the state says something interesting, which I understand the state's advocating. The state says that trial counsel filed a memorandum. Well, I'm like, it was comical. I understand what the state's doing. They're saying they need to try to protect their conviction. But the trial counsel, what he did is he filed some memo that right when the judge is making her decision, finding him guilty, she's like, what memo? He said, well, I filed them. She didn't read, and then the state correctly, the state said, strike it. It's late. So what trial counsel does is, oh, at the last minute, can you imagine I'm coming in here talking about the facts and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, Judge, there's a First Amendment issue. Like, well, don't you think you should have briefed that and let me know? And I hear the state's argument, and the state says courts are presumed to know law. And I know you know law, but I also know, Judge, that we get into issues. You've been on the bench a long time, so I know you know the law. But when, let's say we're going to talk about a Miranda or Messiah issue, I think that it's incumbent upon us to give the material to the court. Let the state oppose it. Let us reply so the court can look at everything, have the court's clerk go maybe find research that interests you on this so that you can make an informed decision, as opposed to at the very last minute in a factual trial, like, oh, by the way, there was a Messiah issue. I don't understand why he did that. This was the issue. This should have happened beforehand. This should have been litigated beforehand. The court, like yourself, just like we're doing here, we should give you the opportunity to go look at it, and maybe my rendition of it is not the way you want to go, it's the state's rendition, but the fact of the matter is at least you had it, and Judge Zimmerman didn't. And that's ineffective, because he should have showed the court these issues. And if he had, just like here, the Wilson case would have come up. I know it was brand new. It was only 3 weeks before the trial. But then the court could say to the state, hey, you've got to have physical conduct or fighting words. We can't just do this on driver safety. Because at one point, the judge ruled, because the prosecutor kept arguing, and the police officer testified, well, the driver had a right to privacy. Like, the driver doesn't have.
The driver's out in public. I don't know if
right.
the driver had a right to privacy. When you're out in public,
you don't have a right to it. And here's another thing, Judge. The state then comes back in their response. Mr. Chen always does an excellent job, and he did here as well. And he cites a bunch of cases, every single case. It made me realize when I read it that they have real legal problems. They've got problems with the law. Because what I did is I read every single one of their cases, and what I found was, oh, this is not at all what these things stand for. In other words, in fairness, they were saying there are time, place, manner restrictions. Yes, true, the cases did stand for that. But let's start with Philadelphia, Fields versus City of Philadelphia. Now, when I first saw the video, what came to mind, just jumped to my mind, was I looked at it and thought, hey, wait a second. Didn't those people in George Floyd, weren't they filming it with cell phone? Now, I hadn't really followed it that much, but I kind of thought about it, and it ran through my mind. So I then started pulling up the exhibits that I put, and I looked at it, and I said, well, boy, those people are closer. They're closer than Mr. De Castro. Another thing that came to mind is, although I didn't really follow that trial very much, I did remember the firefighter. She's an off-duty firefighter, and she came to court with her uniform on. It was devastating for those officers, because she said, I tried to tell them, and then they started saying, if you were a real firefighter, you'd know not to get involved and she said she started using profanity at the officers. And she, at one point, is within a foot of the officers. There's an Asian officer in the back of the vehicle. She comes very close to him. When I look at that, I'm like, well, how is she not in the same situation as him? She's admitting she's using foul language. And I remember her trial testimony where she was crying, and I think it was extraordinarily impactful. I want to talk about something for a second, Judge. Police have to deal with difficult people. I know that because I witnessed it in your courtroom. Right there, right back there, right by the door. And I seem to remember, I was in a capital trial, I came up from a break, about 1 in the afternoon, and what I see is Mr. Hawks having to deal with, I don't know if she's a homeless lady or what, sort of small Caucasian lady, but out of control, and I'm watching, almost nobody's in here, and she's saying horrendous things to Officer Hawks. He there comes back up, because I know there was a female officer, and they're trying to talk to her. Your marshal showed incredible restraint. I know that because I watched her try to kick him in the groin. She tried to kick him, and I watched it happen. And I don't think she was arrested. At some point, they did everything they could to just get her out of here. She was so obnoxious and abusive to your marshal. Yet the restraint shown was remarkable. I remember that because I addressed it with Officer Hawks. How did you do that? To me, it was amazing that a human being could practice that type of restraint. And that's what he did. And that's what this officer should have done. He was angry. When the state says to you, and when the officer said, I was concerned for officer safety. No, he wasn't. At the point when he says to him that annoying language that we call, and the federal courts have said it, provocative and challenging, get in your car, little doggy, and write a ticket. First of all, he's telling him to write the ticket. He's not instructing him. He's just, it's like a directive. Counsel, be quiet and sit down. Okay, that's a directive. You're telling, but you're not instructing me from being quiet and sitting down. He's telling him to do it. And so I don't understand how the state can argue when I can see it for myself that the officer was concerned for officer safety. When he says that, when Mr. De Castro says it, you can see the officer just gets irritated beyond, like, you don't say that to me. He just comes at him. He doesn't pull a taser or anything like that. He's like, you're detained. And then he grabs him pretty hard. And he's trying to say, well, I'm a member of the press. I'm a member of the press. You can't do this to me. He tells him, call your supervisor. Don't do this to me. And he's like, he brings out 2 cell phones, so you know he's not armed and you know what he is. And even the officer said he knew about First Amendment auditors, but didn't say that they, like, shoot people, because he was asked that. He goes, I don't know if I said that. You know he was agitated. This wasn't about fear. This was about, truth be told, you can see it's obvious. This officer was agitated. And the federal courts talk about that. They talk about a lot of these officers who don't want to be filmed. And I want to go back to City versus Philadelphia, or Fields versus City of Philadelphia, because in the state's answering brief, they question, why would you be bringing up Floyd? Are you bringing that up? And I realized the state saw, why are you bringing it up? I saw it was directly relevant to filming police. So since they cited Fields versus City of Philadelphia, I went and read it. And it starts off, so what that is that's an individual who's got concerns about unions, and they're filming in Philadelphia. And the court starts off with very, very, very interesting language. The courts, this is the Third Circuit. The Third Circuit begins their analysis this is the start of the decision. In 1991, George Holliday recorded video of Los Angeles Police Department officers beating Rodney King. They continue to go on about that. I cite that on page 4 of my reply. This case involves retaliation. Individuals making recordings have also faced retaliation by officers, such as arrests on false criminal charges and even violence. And that's because they're recognizing this. The federal courts around the United States are recognizing that police sometimes don't show the restraint that Officer Hawks does. If you're being filmed and you got some irritating person, sometimes when we walk out of these courts, we got press that are like, what just happened? Did your client just get convicted? It's like, yes. Did your client just, they want to sentence him to death? Yes. And you have to be calm. I can't just grab people and do it. You've got to suffer it. suffer it. He didn't stop anything. He didn't grab the officer. He backed off from the officer. Yes, maybe annoying. Yes, maybe provocative. But it is not obstruction. It's not resisting. These are trumped up charges. And that's what the cases show. They can't show you a case. Not a single case could they rely on to show this is obstruction or resistance. Not once. And in fact, like I said, I think trial counsel should have presented it to the judge beforehand. Then the judge could make the correct decision without even a trial. I think if the court had seen it beforehand and not being so agitated by calling the marshal a name, that the court could have ruled that this is clearly protected First Amendment speech. Judge also, so I believe that I've argued that this is a First Amendment violation to convict him of it. It's also under the Wilson decision in the case, federal case law we decided it is clearly arbitrary and capricious. It's being applied incorrectly, and the court did not have the benefit of the Wilson decision because Wilson remanded it to tell the district court you need to look at this. That did not happen here, and so that's a problem. I argued judicial bias. The state claimed that there was no objection. Again, trial counsel didn't object when phones started being taken, didn't make any kind of formal objection. But in Echeverria and in Gurry was my case, it's murder of an FBI agent, there was no objection. It was well before my time, but I do it on post-conviction. I handled it on post-conviction. And it was that the trial judge had been, the FBI agent who'd been murdered, had actually investigated the trial judge. And so they found that that was an implicit bias, and so therefore there was reversal. The judge should have recused herself. She should have realized maybe I should hold this man in contempt, do contempt proceeding, and send this to somebody else. She didn't do that. But I also think it was incumbent upon defense counsel to do a better job and inform her of that. And that leads into my last argument of ineffective assistance of counsel. And I know that on appeal it's rarely considered. However, I cited case law that it's clear as day, and I think the court can already see why wasn't this brief? Why is this whole hearing not happening prior to the trial date? So that Mr. Chen or whoever, it was Miss Agnes Lexis, why didn't she argue this against trial counsel and let the court make a decision? Judge, under the circumstances, reverse is mandated. It just, in every different area, I think under the Wilson decision, I think under the Click decision, I think on every single decision. And so I just want to make sure, Judge, that I cover all my points before I turn it over. And that is, they say Mr. De Castro was angry and hostile. No, this is what he does for a living. That's how he approaches them to see, can they handle it? I think in other videos, if the officer handles it well, like Officer Hawks, then he kind of calms down a bit. He didn't.
I'll object to that as facts that are not in evidence, speculation.
I'll withdraw that argument. And what other time, place, manner restriction? When to do this as an auditor, to do this?
Target parking lot, right?
Yeah, in daylight, broad daylight. When if it was a female officer, not that if it's a female officer on a lonely highway going up to Ely, and all of a sudden somebody's approaching at 3 in the morning, I think that's a different story. That shows officers like, God, what's happening here? And it's fearful. He does it in the most common way. He comes up, I'm a member of the press, annoying, provocative, all of those things, but he's protected. It is one of the most, it is something that is sacred to what our system of justice is. And one of the decisions I cited said, this is the difference between us and a free society, where we can go up and be obnoxious to police. Hey, I see what you're doing. I remember from the time I was in law school, I couldn't cite the case, but I wonder if you remember, Mr. Chen remembers it, where somebody comes up to an officer and calls him up a nigger, which I think is really, I remember as a law student going, you shouldn't do that, that's bad, right? But the reality is, I then learned from the Supreme Court, it may be bad, it may be obnoxious. If it's your child, you'd be like, what did you say? But it's protected, Judge, and he didn't do anything to violate or have those protections taken from him. I'd ask that you practice.
Thank you, Your Honor. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Oram. Considering that our response was called comical, I appreciate the nice words from him today. Regarding, first and foremost, with the ineffective assistance of counsel claim, even if counsel could have done it, we're still focusing on the prejudice point. Ultimately, we're here, and this is the appellate court for this matter, so this court's going to make a matter of law decision. So I think ultimately everything regarding that issue gets resolved on a prejudice prong, whether or not Judge Zimmerman was apprised of the information that he was put forth today. Now, with regard specifically to the First Amendment claim, Mr. Oram mentions that we cite to a number of cases, and the cases factually don't support our position, and I think we recognize that in our brief. There are cases where police officers have stopped individuals from filming encounters that they absolutely had a lawful right to do. This is why the court consistently talks about time, place, and manner restrictions. We don't doubt that that's the case, but to suggest that we didn't read those cases, I think is an unfair characterization, because what we're trying to focus on is whether the time, place, and manner restrictions were present in this case. Now, what I would argue, and what I think we argued in our brief, is cases like Glick are relevant to the extent that in that case, the individual clearly was not impeding, obstructing, or being a problem to police officers. The only thing that individual in Glick was doing was filming officers, and the officers were upset by it. That's a very different situation when we're talking about time, place, and manner in this case. Yes, it's in a public parking lot, but you have to realize that as the facts came out, that the officer was letting the individual film until he approached the driver. Now, I agree, privacy is not a thing necessarily in public, which is why we didn't argue it. However, there are other concerns for time, place, and manner regarding safety of everybody involved, including the fact that when the officer's writing a ticket, when the officer's communicating with this lady who's been pulled over, when that lady is sitting in her car and not free to move because she's subject of a traffic stop, that the scene needs to be secure. Now, I appreciate that the individual, Mr. Castro, could have plenty of followers, and he might have followers. I didn't know of him before this date, and it doesn't appear that the officer did either. So ultimately, the officer is treating this individual as someone who's filming, but doesn't know what the ultimate motivations are. It could be to film, it could be to do something else, it could be to interfere with the driver, and I think that's what the evidence shows in this particular case. Not only did he approach the driver, the key part where the obstruction begins to occur is when the officer asks him to back away from the driver. He says, well, I'm a filmer. Great, you can film, but I need you to back up. And again, we're quibbling over how much the backup was, but I think
He clearly backed up.
he backed up a couple of feet. There's no question about that. But I think what the officer testified to was he wanted it a further distance based upon, in large part, how Mr. Castro was operating. Now, if Mr. Castro had backed up a number of feet and continued recording and wasn't saying and doing the things that he was doing, I think we'd have a very different situation. But the problem is,
Mr. Castro's supposed to know that he has to back up further.
the officer instructed him in the video that to continue backing up, and rather than backing up further, he stood his ground and said, no, I'm relying upon a fictional 10 feet rule, which I don't think is a matter of law. I don't think the First Amendment says 10 feet is automatically permissible, because you can do a lot of things
There are courts that have held 10 feet is sufficient.
depending on what the situation is, all right?
I agree.
If I pull out a gun, is 10 feet still sufficient? We're an open carry state, for instance, so there are individuals who can carry guns. So if we were to say automatically that I'm 10 feet away, and that as a matter of law, that's sufficient, I think it's very different if the individual is doing certain things. If the individual has a grenade in their hand, that's why it's time, place, and manner specific. We're not advocating, I didn't advocate for a 21-foot rule, even though that's what the officer said he was trained to do, in that he wanted the individual to move back a certain amount.
But he never vocalized that.
He didn't.
He never verbalized, said, hey, I want you to move 20, 21 feet back, go back to this line, don't come across this line. There was none of that, because it happened so fast. I mean, the officer testified it was within like 10 to 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's all on the video as well, Your Honor, so I agree that he doesn't give a specific number. And even if he had given a specific number, it's not that that specific number is somehow constitutionally permissible or not. But the point is the manner in which this individual, who's unknown to the officer, is interacting with that officer in that very manner is what the issue is for us. And based upon that, the officer can't continue to feel that he can do his job, the traffic stop, speaking with the individual, of doing any records checks that need to be done, of writing the actual ticket, while this individual is yelling, refusing to move back at a further distance, and again, with unknown motivations. In hindsight, we can look at him and perhaps say, well, he was only here to put this on his YouTube channel, but ultimately, at the time that it's happening, this officer who interacts with him, who even tells him, you're allowed to film, but I need you to continue backing up, I think that's what the reasonableness is, that's what the time, place, and manner restriction is, not some magical number. As we point out in our brief, I think what Mr. De Castro believes and what counsel believes is that because Blake said 10 feet, that there's this line of 10 feet, and no matter what, I can do whatever I want within 10 feet. And I think even Wilson, although I understand it's remanded for further hearings, goes against that proposition that, oh, there's some type of magical number or anything like that. This individual in Wilson is yelling as there's a suicidal individual who is obviously a delicate situation. The police don't want this individual to hurt himself, and Wilson continues to yell and interfere with what's going on. Specifically in Wilson too, that even though they say physical conduct again is made up of multiple different things, including what we do with our bodies, but as well as what we're saying and how we're acting throughout the course of the interaction. And Wilson acknowledges that. In fact, they cite a treatise, what constitutes obstructing or resisting an officer. And if you look at that particular treatise, I mean, it goes on for multiple pages of various conduct that would entail obstructing. So here, it's not simply about the words. It's not simply about the fact that Mr. De Castro was annoying. It's not simply about the fact that Mr. Castro was saying things like calling the officer doggy and whatnot. It's not about that. It's the totality of the circumstance which prohibited the officer from being able to safely and adequately conduct the traffic stop. And that's.
Well, he immediately released her.
He did.
Also, I mean, he gets out of the car. I mean, it appears to me he was going to release her regardless because it was so fast. He said, "You're free to go," and then he went to take care of the other issue.
Yeah, well,
I just forgot to put my camera back up.
is he went and did the records check, and then he mentioned too she was surprised or even confused by the fact that she had an issue with her registration. Exactly. Now, again, I don't want it. It's speculating to assume what happened there, but certainly those are the facts that came out at trial, and so ultimately, whether he was going to take it or not, he may have taken her. Obviously, he pulled her over because the system, as he testified, said that there was an issue with her license. But because of the fact that this all went on, perhaps the obstructing was that he didn't feel comfortable to write. It wasn't worth writing this ticket. She already was informed of it so that he could deal with this other situation of this individual who's clearly obstructing with his ability to get to the very end of his investigation, whether he was going to release her or whether he was going to write the ticket. But the problem is the impediment is the individual who's continuing to yell and stand a number of feet away.
You could never do that then if all the officer had to do was say, because I had to go deal with this, I couldn't write the citation, right?
I think it's time, place, and manner specific though. In this particular case, when you watch the video, I think he is that much of a problem that this officer ended up, talking to him more.
But what's the obstruction? It's not the words, and it's not the filming. I mean, the officer, to his credit, he said right away, you can film, you just need to back up, And I understand he didn't want him talking to the driver, but it didn't appear to me as though after he was instructed, don't talk to my driver, he didn't talk to her anymore. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, yes.
Right.
And everyone testified to that.
Right, and then he backed up. I mean, I understand the officer didn't think it was enough, and so, I mean, is it just that he didn't back up far enough for the officer? That was the obstruction?
He didn't back up far enough in addition to the manner in which he was acting. So, had there been a conversation saying, officer, and again, everything is so fact specific, right? But the fact that De Castro is immediately yelling, arguing with the officer about the amount of backing up that needs to be done, that's what the issue is. It isn't about the space in itself or the distance in itself. It's a combination of factors of everything involved. Now, Mr. Oram says that depending on who the officer was and where it was at night, I believe where it was could play into it, but I think it's incredibly, I think it's an unfair statement to assume that some officer, simply by virtue of being a female, would somehow be in an incredibly worse position, and that Mr. De Castro, for instance, could treat her differently or would need to treat her differently than the officer that we have involved here. I think
Well, if it was in Ely on the side of the road at 3 a.m. on that road between
for any individual,
Reno and Vegas.
yeah, for any individual, I would agree. For any individual.
I agree.
I'm just saying that it seems incredibly sexist to say that somehow a female officer would be unable to defend herself on that Ely road, but somehow a male officer would be automatically good to deal with the De Castros of the world who want to interfere with the investigation. That's what I'm simply saying, is that I at least wholeheartedly disagree with the characterization there in terms of the time, place, and manner. But I agree, an isolated road could be a factor. But they're all just factors, Your Honor. This case has its own facts. There will be other cases that come through the line, but I'm just arguing that pursuant to these particular facts, he was convicted of obstructing. And Mr. Arm doesn't address at all that second issue, which has to do with the resisting portion of things. Now, I think the case law is clear.
That Risenby case, I mean, so even if, let's say even if I agree that there, this was an obstruction, it was unlawful to detain him, that Risenby case seems to indicate you still can't resist.
And that would be our argument. If he hasn't addressed it, I'm sure he will on his reply, but that's the last of my argument. Thank you.
And I'll address that. First of all, I didn't mean in any way, Judge, if you could take the biggest male officer, I meant just giving the scenario. It could be 1 in the morning, 3 in the morning, female, male. I didn't mean it that way. I just meant the visual of how it's different there. What I just heard was sort of interesting. Mr. Chen just said, I didn't argue the 21-foot rule because it didn't, it's not applicable. They sure did at trial, didn't they? That's what they argued. Even the prosecutor argued it. So Mr. Chen is only retreating from it because it's not a rule, and it makes no sense. It's something used, as we talked about, in self-defense type issues.
Right, but if the officer would have said that, I'm not sure that would have been unreasonable.
I
really want you to be about 21
Yes.
feet back,
Yes.
give me some space, and,
Right.
don't go past this white line. I mean, there were markers in the parking lot.
Right? And if he had grabbed his citation started and Mr. Castro got in the way, you're not going to do that. It's obstruction. This is an obstruction. And the 10 feet, I agree. Is it 10 if you're only 9.5 feet? Is it? No, I don't think that's the point. The point they're trying to make is that our statute tells us we can film police officers. It doesn't say 10 feet, 21 feet. It just says filming them. When he was told to back up, he did. And the state is now saying, yes, we all agree with that. We're quibbling over words. I'm only quibbling over words because they kept saying at trial he wouldn't back up, which is not quibbling with words, it's inaccurate.
That's true. I mean, the officer did testify on direct examination repeatedly that he didn't back up.
Yes.
But on cross indicated, well, he did back up, he just didn't back up.
Substantial.
Yeah, he may have backed up inches, he didn't substantially back up.
Now, with regard to what are the intentions, I keep hearing, what are these intentions? He didn't know what the intentions are. And then that's why I put up, because I think there was testimony that I don't know who this guy is connected to. You don't know who this person is. Well, the officers in Floyd didn't know who these people were. The people filming, they didn't know it was an off-duty firefighter. They probably had done something different if they knew who they were dealing with. But they didn't know, and so the same arguments could be made. Oh, they're within 10 feet, officer safety. Maybe those are all gang members, and they're the same gang as George Floyd. It's his brother, I don't want to be sexist, it's his sister who's going to pull out a gun, or some other person, male, female, going to pull out a gun and shoot it. So we are doing this for officer safety. No, it isn't. And the courts, you can look at George Floyd and realize that the courts, in a big case in the United States, said, these people have a right to do that. And the question I really ask, I think is important. There was no abuse. The officer wasn't doing anything abusive to the driver. It's clear as day, okay? But if he was, and he caught it on film, and now it's hitting CNN and Fox and all of this stuff, then they say, oh yeah, we caught him, and 10 years from now, the third.
Good to see a blind bombshell.
But he didn't catch them. So is that the standard? Can we film police officers? But if they're not doing anything wrong, and I'm using obnoxious language, then I can be arrested? Is that what the standard? It isn't, Judge. The application.
You're allowed to be annoying.
I'm sorry?
You're allowed to be annoying.
You're allowed to be annoying. You're allowed to say,
You're allowed to be obnoxious.
Yeah. And, you know, I realize again, we as lawyers appear in front of judges all the time. We appear in front of juries. We're trying not to, you don't want to be obnoxious. It won't help your case. It won't help that. But I recognize this is some cornerstone. It's the foundation of our nation. The resisting. Did you notice the officer said, oh, when this resisting is happening, my body cam all of a sudden doesn't go out. He testified he never resisted. And you can see it on him. He tells him, don't do it. The officer really grabs him hard. And then he's like, okay, I'm walking. You even see him with his camera. I'm walking back to your car. There's no resisting. He's trying to tell him, you're being unconstitutional. He does say it. You can't do this to me. Call your supervisor. But they get him in handcuffs, and there he sits. By the way, the state didn't ask for him to sit there. Agnes Lexis asked for a suspended sentence, and Judge Zimmerman decided to give him the maximum. He's been in there 4.5 months for this. And I kind of wonder.
So that characterization is, it's not a maximum. It's 3 months on each count and consecutive.
Right, yeah.
Oh, you're right. Okay, you're right. I stand corrected. For whatever reason, I guess misdemeanor 6 months. Yeah. So she gives him. But the state didn't ask for that. They asked for concurrent 90 days suspended. It goes to show what really happened. There were so many different errors, and I can tell the court has a good handle of this. Judge, there is no resisting. It was an unconstitutional arrest. The man should receive the benefit. I mean, we have a beyond reasonable doubt standard. We can look at Wilson.
Great to see you, Mr.
Really
Binklesworth.
They almost sound
No
like
apology needed, my
in a
friend.
bad murder case where they're saying, well, what is physical conduct or contact? Because that's what Wilson said. And they're struggling with it because they don't even, because there is no physical contact. Backing up and filming and then pulling out a second camera, it's not physical conduct. There's nothing physical. He doesn't do anything physical. The officer just lost control, and he was irritated. Maybe we understand. It's not.
Yeah, you can understand. Yeah. I can understand.
Okay,
and it kind of comes out of nowhere.
It's out of nowhere. Is it? You know, who wants to be called names?
I'm very sorry to hear that, Mr. Binklesworth. Genuinely, my friend. Glad to see you, though.
And it also keeps our police, these auditors, do help in some way, because sometimes they prove police are doing, if there was an auditor on what he did, and that woman was like, oh, he was saying these things to me. No, he wasn't. If I'm not a witness to it, no, he isn't. And the video shows that if somebody was filming it, he wasn't doing anything wrong. So some false allegation by some crazy lady, okay, it helps them sometimes. And also, sometimes it catches bad police officers. Here, what we have is a situation where you have a right to do it. And so for those reasons, I ask that you grant the appeal and reverse this man's conviction.
Anything else from the state?
I would only briefly say that in the Floyd case, no one was arrested. That's what the distinction is there. So people were allowed to film the encounter, and obviously other things happened from that case. But the issue is not that they were filming. No one was arrested there. And the case law makes it clear in Lisenby and other ones, if there's a probability of substantial harm or death, then individuals can actually interfere and it wouldn't be obstructed. So the case law, I just want to point out that distinction, but otherwise I have nothing else.
Okay, so at this time the court's going to grant the appeal and reverse the convictions based on its First Amendment protected conduct. And Mr. Orm, you can prepare the order.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much,
He needs to be released from custody, so
He'll be released.
we'll
No.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ready, sir?
No. That is an arrestable offense. I'm sorry.
Fucking chill out, RoboCop. I mean, come on. Probably not the best time to be flexing that kind of shit, but there we have it. Fucking Chili's released. Do I think fairly? I gotta be honest. I do. I really do. Like, I mean, I know people don't like it necessarily, but the facts don't care about your feelings. That's just the way it is, guys. And will he slip up again and get in trouble again? Probably. Will he be more careful? I think Chili's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. Genuinely, he is, and I think he'll play it safe enough. But yeah, it's just a matter of waiting to see, what comes of all of this. He is going live in an hour. I just don't have the time to cover it. I have to be up out of bed in about 5 hours to go pick my mate up from the airport. I'm fucking super excited. But definitely, yeah, it's going to be fucking interesting to see what comes out of this the next few days. Oh yeah, no, that is a new tattoo, Nick. So I got that one yesterday, and I got this one today, and I'm getting my limey one tomorrow. This awesome new tattoo artist had designed a beautiful tattoo, memorial tattoo for Limey. So really, really excited to get that tomorrow. It's going to be beautiful. I'm going to live stream live from the tattoo parlor. I'm going to try set it up in such a way that I'll have the iPad and the phone, so that I'll be able to read the comment section as we go. You can ask me questions, you can ask the artist questions, and things like that. So it's going to be awesome. Question: is the event for you? Which event? Sorry, the event of the weekend. No, it's actually not. It's just a club thing that's on. Are you ever going to release the remaining evidence against Dan? I released everything about Dan. About the evidence that concerns you. You know what I mean? I don't mean that in a nasty way. I mean genuinely, like the stuff about his fundraisers, the stuff about all that kind of shit. That was all released. The other stuff I was talking about was personal shit, and that doesn't need to be released right now, frankly. But if you have any questions, though, feel free to reach out, email me, drop me an email if there's anything specific that you feel like you need to know. I'm happy to oblige as best I can. Demon Sister for $5 says, remember his other similar cases yet to be tried. It was way more damning than this one. It was a fatality and he crossed the yellow police tape. We'll definitely have a look at that one over the coming days. Sandy D for $5 says, I would also support a law that deals with intent. Chile wants these confrontations, so if they can prove intent to provoke, they get charged. That is a very interesting concept. I'd love to have a lawyer on maybe to talk about that one. CK, great to see you, says, did I really catch a live? Hello to you, your better half, and your mom. Thank you so much indeed. Absolute pleasure to have you here. Knight of Northern Ireland for $2 says, TTU Lanov Gurav Mila Mahagut Makara, and that is the last super chat of tonight. Tyluk says, even after all the calls and threats against the court, it's insane. Was it him that made those calls and threats? That's the first thing. If not, he can't be blamed for those, right? I've covered that before. Yeah, anyway. If it's specifically from him, then should charges be drawn? Absolutely. Mr. Binglesworth, thank you so much for the I don't know why this isn't coming up on the screen. My screen's frozen. Oh, the interviews with villagers. We just have. Frankly, I just can't afford to fly over to Wales at the moment. I probably wouldn't fly over anyway. I'd most likely take the car and go on the ferry. It just works out cheaper, but it's like $400, and I just can't stretch it at the moment to $400. So yeah, I just once I get a few more bucks because I haven't been working a lot on YouTube and stuff like that. I've had a lot of other stuff going on. But yeah, once I have the money, I'll definitely go over there and go have some conversations with some interesting people. For some reason, my screen is frozen. But Mr. Binklesworth, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. It says, love you, sir. Love you too, man. Love all you guys. It's fucking, I love being back in the studio. Still a little bit of work to do back there, but we're getting there. Yeah, the StreamYard just crashed. I don't know what happened there. Something great. Oh, absolutely. But like as I say, those interviews and stuff, I have some really good interviews lined up. It's just it's quite an expense to go over there. It actually costs a lot more. The time I went over was when it comes to like making money on YouTube side of things, a lot of people are like, oh, you only did it to make money. I lost money on that fucking thing. Big time. Oh, big time. Holy shit, that cost me. Typical seaman. I love that. Yeah, that cost me way more than I thought it was going to cost. Fucking flying over there and all that. Oh man, it was crazy. So yeah, definitely I need to be careful with that part. How many renowned computer scientists have Irish ancestors? That's actually very true. I did not get any of those fucking genes, I tell you that much. But anyway, lads and lassies, it's fucking great to be back in the studio. It's great to see you all. I hope you're all having a fucking great day. And if any more comes of this over the next few days, I'll catch up with you. I'll catch you tomorrow about 12 noon my time. So just under 12 hours from now, I'll be getting the Triggered Limey memorial tattoo. It's beautiful. And I'm sure you guys are going to love it. So I'm going to live stream that. And we will catch you all then. Thank you so fucking much. I'm going to get my delicious little butt into the shower and then into bed and hopefully get a bit of sleep tonight. Thank you so much, folks. Have a good one. Take care.